This weed here that you see, we call it stinking weed. Some people call it dandelion. It has this long sort of pod-like look to it. This weed, open those pods and you take out the seeds. And if you parch those seeds, they can be a replacement for coffee. And those same seeds parched are good as a remedy for heart palpitations and kidney troubles. The leaves there that you see, those leaves are good for the liver. And anything that's good for the liver tends to be good for colds as well. The root of the same stinking weed plant, and I've pulled out one of the plants here, have it in my hands. The root is very good for stopping hemorrhagic troubles, so bleeding of any type. And I really use the whole plant, and I recommend women to use the whole plant as a decoction, as a tea for menstrual troubles. So if you're having heavy bleeding, it doesn't matter what it's due for. This tends to arrest the heavy bleeding. So this is a very good menstrual herb as well. Stinking weed. So here is a plant. You can see it there. It actually, when these flowers dry up, there's a small yellow flower. When these flowers dry up, it disperses itself by these feathery feathers that tend to be able, and I actually like pulling them off and letting them fly, but they'll fly in the wind just by themselves. This herb though is called groundsel. Now some people call it dandelion. People call all sorts of things dandelion. So neither the stinking weed before nor this is the true dandelion plant. But this plant of itself is called groundsel. And the entire plant, let me just pick it up. The entire plant, so you can see the leaves, how they are there. And you can see the flower pods. This entire plant is an excellent woman's herb. So for those that have heavy menstrual periods, for any cause, whether it's fibroids, whether it's just cramping, terrible cramping, groundsel, a decoction of groundsel, and I would actually mix it with stinking weed and do a decoction of them both. Excellent remedy for this. So here I am again in my farm. I'm just walking from place to place, and I'm at an annatto plant. That's a bunch of annatto. The flower of the annatto plant looks like that over there. I hope you can see that. And then there are pods of annatto all over. Annatto is used as a coloring. So the ants come into these ones and get it. But if I break off a pod for you here, and I show you maybe if I rub some on my hands, they're pretty dry right now because we've been having a lot of sun. And you're not seeing any sort of that redness because these are, like I said, very, very dry. They're very dry, these pods. But let me see if, nope. Let me see if I get one that, no, we've been having so much sun that their pods are pretty dry. I would have to get a green pod. So great, I leaned over and got a green pod. So this is the green pod. And I'm going to open the green pod because you should see some of that redness in the green pod there. Can you see how red it is? That's how red the annatto is. And so, see what it did to my finger? We use it for food coloring. And when the seed pods become dry like this, we grind them, and that's how you get annatto seed powder. Annatto seed powder. Now, annatto is great as just a culinary thing for making natural butters, even as an addition to skin creams, etc. It gives a nice color as what you would get if you add a beta carotene supplement to something. It, of course, would have all the antioxidants of a red food. But more than this, the seed pulp is also a very good thing to stop heavy bleeding and other sorts of bleeding, hemorrhagic bleedings. It's also an antidote to certain poisoning, certain types of food poisoning. You would use some of the seed pulp, and what you would do is basically just blend this seed pulp in water, or some people will soak it overnight, but I rather blend it and then strain it. externally, you can apply some of that seed pulp for various skin diseases. One of the things that this stinking toe is so good for is the stinking toe is excellent for low hemoglobin levels. So if you have low blood levels, then using this in addition with molasses and some of your raisins and prunes, etc., or even blending this in grape juice and then straining that grape juice and drinking that off, that is an excellent remedy for low hemoglobin levels. So I've just come down into our sour sop or sweet sop or graviola is called by a variety of names. We call it sour sop here in Guyana. And this particular tree is known worldwide as graviola, and it has gotten a lot of, I guess, attention for its effects, both the leaves, the bark, the actual fruit of itself as being an anti-cancer fruit. So here, if I can I zoom in on that? You see that little thing there? Let me see how close I can get up to it there. That's the flower. That's the flower. And that flower slowly will transform itself to one of those fruits. It's a very small fruit here. So the flowers are good for lung issues, for various lung issues. The young leaves are very good for any kind of digestive trouble. And, this might be one of the reasons why it's an excellent anti-cancer compound. The leaves are well known for being sedative as well, for being a sedative. So if you have trouble sleeping, you're suffering from insomnia, you have anxiety issues, then that's great. And of course, like I said, it's being touted now for cancer and other degenerative diseases. All right, so I've come down to one of the breadfruit trees. So breadfruit, we call it. So technically it's a fruit. There's one over there. Let me come around this way to show you one more close up. So there you have it. And that's a breadfruit. And that one is actually getting ripe and will fall to the ground shortly like that one unless we get it before and we eat it. And not to worry, whatever falls on the ground here, the animals eat, so nothing really is wasted. But here we have the breadfruit tree. Now the breadfruit tree has a great history in my country because it actually helped us when other foods were not available in the country, because breadfruit can turn into flour and really make anything and all sorts of things, including different chapatis, breads and all sorts of things, hence the name breadfruit. It actually has a meaning. This particular fruit has over 15 minerals and vitamins. It's actually, in my mind, a superfood and one of the foods that really supported us as a people for a while. It also has several essential amino acids like the one lysine. So eaten in conjunction with beans and fruits and vegetables, it will contribute to giving you all the necessary protein that you need. The leaves, as you see here, are very large, but they're actually very good as a decoction for high blood pressure and diabetes. And I know several people that use these leaves to help in the management of those diseases. The juice of the leaves, so you would either blend them, or simply what we do is kind of mash them with something heavy and then squeeze the leaves. The juice is very antibiotic and antifungal, and a few drops of it is good for ear infections or varying forms of thrush, candida. Externally, the milk, because there's a lot of milk when you cut off this fruit to eat. The milk or the latex, that's the white stuff when you cut the fruit, is actually good for pain, and so you can rub it into painful areas in the body. It grows quite tall, but not as tall as some of the trees that I will show you here. So here I've come to another place on the farm, and this is called milkweed, or it's also called asthma weed. You can know it because it has like these distinctive bunches. And then the leaves intertwine, and sometimes it can have like this sort of reddish color on the leaf, especially if the sun is hot as it is now. So like I said, you can see some of the reddish tinge on the leaf there. But this weed here is an asthma weed, so it's good for all lung troubles. But not only that, it is helpful in milk production, so lactation in women that are not producing milk. And you can pull up the whole thing and put it in a decoction, and it's good as it's a very good tonic, and it actually can be used against some of the tropical diseases like dengue. That's actually quite frequent in Guyana. So easy weed to recognize, and one that is helpful to know and to have growing in your yard. So here I've come to the citronella bush, and citronella is a cousin to lemongrass, also known as fever grass, and it of itself is very good for fevers. It's also good for indigestion, as a wash for eye inflammation and any sort of eye strain that you may be having. It's a very good detoxification kind of herb. It makes a nice tea just if you like drinking tea. Some people really like the smell of citronella. Externally, it can be used for pain, and the oil is very well known as an insecticide that actually works to keep mosquitoes away. All right, so I've come into my little shade house where I have some herbs that I use quite a lot. This herb is the cousin of cilantro. So America has cilantro and we have this. It's called culantro. It's also called fit leaf. And the leaves are anti-inflammatory. Of course, we use them in cooking. They give a really nice flavor in curry, in salads, in a lot of different things. The whole plant is used as a decoction for parasites and for epilepsy. But I really love it just in food. So I'm pointing my camera high up in the air, and I don't know if you can see those little brown pods up there. And I mean, this is very, very high into the air. I am way up, several meters up. Okay, so I've come around and I'm actually at the bottom of the tree, and this tree is actually used for timber. So you can imagine that it actually grows quite tall. It's about 100 feet in the air right now. And the wood is actually very good because it isn't prone to be attacked by, termites or any other sort of organisms. The stinking toe, that's what we call it in Guyana, but it's a type of carob. It's a carob pod. And it's very good. I really like to eat it and just suck on it as a fruit. It's good for mouth ulcers. The leaves are very good for diabetes and for controlling sugars. The bark helps to stop hemorrhaging of any kind. And as a tree and as a food as a whole, it helps in the control of yeast trouble. So anything that is a yeast trouble, so if it's thrush, if it's vaginal whites, if it's athlete's foot, all of those are helped significantly by this tree. So here we have the hibiscus flower. And I know in America they call hibiscus what we call sorrel, but this is our hibiscus. We also have that hibiscus, or what they call hibiscus, which is sorrel. But this particular hibiscus here, the petals are a really good source of vitamin C, and you can eat a lot of flowers. You can add them to salads. They usually have like a citrusy, sourish taste, and they actually go very well in salads. The flowers as a decoction is a good aphrodisiac. It's good for liver troubles, high blood pressure problems, and sugar control issues. The leaves are also good as a diuretic. So for anybody that has edema troubles or swelling, and it's also anti-fever, and it's sedative. Sedative for you if you'd have trouble sleeping, but also sedative to digestive troubles. So it's an excellent stone for kidney stones and stones in general. In the Spanish vocabulary, it is called chancapiedra, the stone breaker, and it does a really good job at doing that. Now this little herb, according to the studies and according to traditional ideas, is good for everything. So it's good for any sort of degenerative disease. It's good for colds. It's good for fevers. It's good for digestive issues. It's good for skin troubles. I mean, apparently this is a real cure-all. So hopefully you have it in your garden. I surely have it in mine.